Hi friends, Anne McKinnell here with a tutorial on how to process your underwater photos. Underwater photography is something that I've just gotten into in the last couple of years, and I've discovered that you don't need to have all kinds of expensive underwater housing or learn how to dive or anything like that to get started. So if you would like some information about getting started with underwater photography, check out my full tutorial on my blog. I will leave a link in the description below. One thing that I did find out is that it does pose some unique challenges when it comes to color correction and handling all the debris that's in the water. So let's dive in to processing your underwater photos. I have some tricks and techniques to share with you, and you will see that it actually takes quite a bit of work to process these photos because there tends to be all kinds of little things in the water that are very distracting in your images that you're going to want to get rid of. And I'll show you some ways that you can speed up your workflow. Okay, so I have this series of photographs of a jelly. And I've already cropped these to a 1-to-1 ratio. That's the only change I've made to these images so far. Because of course the crop is a little bit different. The jelly was in a little bit of a different place in each image. So I went ahead and cropped all of these. And now I'm just going to go and process the first image. Okay, so I'll go over to the Develop module. And I'm just going to make a few small adjustments. I'll increase the contrast. I'm going to use this dehaze slider, and that will bring in a lot of clarity. Well, maybe I don't want to use the word clarity because it's not the clarity slider. It's, it just allows you to kind of see through the water better, almost like having a pair of polarizing glasses on or something like that. I'll increase the vibrance a little bit. And in the detail area, I will add a little bit of sharpening. And I'm going to add some noise reduction. And in lens corrections, I always check this remove chromatic aberration checkbox. Okay, so that's about all I am going to do in Lightroom. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and open this up in Photoshop. So I'll go Photo, Edit in Photoshop. And I'll edit a copy with the Lightroom adjustments. All right, so I have some techniques here that you can use to help get rid of all of these little dots, because you don't want to try and clone all of these out or use the remove tool on all of these. There's just too many. Okay, so I'm going to make a copy of this layer by going Command J, or you can drag it down on top of this to make a duplicate of that layer. I like to preserve the background layer, so I'm going to work on this one here called Layer 1. And what I'll do is I'm going to go Filter, Noise, and I will pick Dust and Scratches. Okay, so with a radius here of 3, you can see that that gets rid of a lot of the little tiny dots. I'll use this preview checkbox to turn this off and back on, and what a difference that makes. That got rid of about 1,000 little tiny dots. Okay, so I'm just going to click OK. Now what I don't want to do is remove any of the detail in the actual jelly. So I'm going to add a layer mask to this, and then using a black brush at 100%, I'm going to paint over this and make sure that I don't lose any of the detail. And I forgot to click brush. Here we go, brush, 100%. Now it will work. I will paint over this. Okay, and if I want to see where I have painted, I can click Option and click this eye icon over here in your layer stack, and you can see exactly where I've painted. Okay, so I missed a little bit. Oops. Make sure I've clicked on the layer mask when I paint. Okay, and there it is. Okay, So I'm going to call this layer Dust 3. All right. So now what I want to do is make another copy to work on going forward. So I'm going to combine all of this onto a new layer by going Command Option Shift E. I'll put on the screen here what that command is on PCs. On a Mac, it's Command Option Shift E. All right. So now on this layer, I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to go Filter, Noise, Dust and Scratches, but this time I'm going to pick a radius of 8. And you can see that got rid of a lot more of those little specks that were everywhere. Okay, but it's a little bit too much, right? So I'm just going to pick OK. And the reason I have done this is because it just makes it a lot easier and faster to get rid of a lot of those specks. So what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to add a layer mask, but I'm going to make it black so that none of that change is showing immediately. Okay, so let me demonstrate. I'm going to go click down, hold down the Alt or Option key while you click the layer mask icon, and that makes the layer mask black. All right, now none of that is showing. So wherever I want to remove the little specks, I'm going to paint on it with a white brush. So I'll pick my brush tool. I'm going to click X to change the foreground and background colors so that white is my foreground color. And at 100%, I can just go now and paint on everywhere that I want that to appear. I'm going to make my brush a little bit smaller using the bracket key. And now I can just go ahead and paint all of these little specks that I want to get rid of. And this is just a lot faster than using the Remove tool. Okay, I can just go here and get rid of all of these little specks. Okay, so I'm just going to, here I go. And this it's a little bit time consuming, but it's a lot faster than some other methods, and it really does make a big difference in your photos. So I'm just going to keep doing this. Alright, so I sped that up so you didn't have to watch me take out every single little dot. I spent a couple of minutes just, using my paintbrush and dotting all over the place. And when you see my layer mask over here, you can see how much is, it's kind of half and half, but doing it this way allows you to retain the detail you want and get rid of all of those specks. So I'm going to turn this layer off so you can see the difference that made, and back on again. Off and on. And when I turn both of these off, I can look at the original background layer here by holding down the Option or Alt key and clicking on the eyeball icon, and I can see the original and then how it is after those two layers. So that's a huge difference. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and call this one Dust 8. Okay, now make sure I save this just in case something bad happens. So now, when I'm at this stage, now I can go, and if I want to get rid of any of these bigger spots, I can go and use the Remove tool to get rid of those. So I'm going to add a new layer, blank layer. I'm going to pick the Remove tool, and I can just go through now and pick out any of these bigger spots that I want to get rid of. Use the bracket key anywhere I want to make it a little bit bigger. Okay. And there's a bit of a flare here, and I'm just going to paint over that. Okay. Maybe I'll just do a few more of these ones down here. You expect to see some in any underwater photograph. I don't think it would look normal if they were all gone. but okay. So again, I'm going to rename this layer. I like to name my layers so I remember what I did. Okay, remove. And I can turn that layer off and back on again. And using the Option key, I can click this eyeball and click them all off and back on again. And what a huge difference that's made. Okay, so now with a lot of those specks removed, what I want to do is, go ahead and enhance things the way I normally would using Luminar. So again, I'm going to make a new layer that is a combination of all of these layers. Sort of the same as flattening them, but I don't want to flatten them. I want to make a new one to work on. Okay, so again, I'm going to go Command Option Shift E. And that makes a new layer that is the same as all of these layers combined. Okay, so here I'm going to use this one, and I'm going to go into Luminar. So Filter, Skylum Software, and I'm going to pick Luminar Neo. All right, and I will pick Edit. I'm going to make this screen a bit bigger here. Okay. So let's see, some of the things I normally do here, I like to use, let's see, where is it here? There it is, landscape. I love this golden hour. This really brings out some nice hues. I love using that. I'm going to use golden hour. I am going to use the vignette. I've always thought that Luminar has the best vignette because you can not only vignette, but under advanced settings, you can add some inner light, and it really brings focus into your subject. Okay, use the eyeball icon again to turn that off and on and see what you're doing. Okay, and I'm going to add some details. I'm going to add some small details. All right, but I only want to add details in the actual jelly. So I'm going to go to Masking, Brush, Paint, and I'm going to paint on where I want these details to be. Okay. All right. And now I am going to pick Glow. Really like the Glow tool. I'm going to change this from soft focus to glow and add, I don't know, let's see, maybe about, I like to keep this low. It does make a big difference even at low values. There's the glow, maybe a little bit more. Okay, and I also really like mystical. It looks really cool. So I'm just going to add some of that. I really like it for underwater photography. Okay, using the eyeball icon again. Okay, and I think I don't want this to appear on the actual jelly, just in the background, so I'm going to mask that. Use my brush, and in this case I'm going to pick Erase, and I'm going to erase the effect where I don't want it. Okay, so I'm going to now erase that effect on the jelly. Okay. So I can use this eyeball icon at the bottom of the screen to see all of the changes that I've made. There's the before and the after. And doesn't that make the before look kind of gray and boring? Okay. Now, before I leave here, and this is the part of speeding up your workflow, I am going to choose Actions, and I'm going to save this as a preset. Okay, so save as preset, and I'm just going to call this one Jelly. Okay, and I will pick Apply. Great. Okay, and now I'm going to rename this layer, and I will call it Jelly. Luminar. Okay, and I'm going to click Save, just so I don't lose anything. And that is looking pretty good to me. one more thing I think I'm going to do. I'm going to make another copy of this layer by going Command J. And I'm going to add some noise reduction. I'll go Filter, Topaz Labs. I really like Topaz Denoise. It's my favorite denoise tool. You can do some denoise in Luminar. I could have done it there. I just prefer Topaz Denoise. And I already have it set up here. I have Standard. I have Remove Noise. I've taken down Enhance Sharpness because I don't want to bring back any of those specks I just got rid of. And I am just going to choose Apply. And there we go. I'll turn that layer off and on again. Okay, now I'm going to rename this layer. I call it DN, and I will just save that. So again, I'll use the Option key, click on this eyeball icon on the background layer to show the original and the one that's completely processed. Okay. So that is how you can go about getting rid of all of those little specks and enhancing your underwater photo. Now, let's get back to workflow. Okay, I'm going to close this and we'll go back to Lightroom. So first of all, in the library module, I've processed this first image. Well, actually, this is the one that came from Photoshop. So the first thing I'm going to do here is make this a 3-star instead of a 2-star, so I remember that this is the one that I've processed in Photoshop. It also has a TIFF extension. So I'm going to go to the JPEG. The underwater photos I shot in JPEG, not in RAW. So I'm going to pick this original photo that we processed in Lightroom. I'm going to hold down my Shift key and pick all of the other photos by clicking on the last one in the series. And I'm going to click Sync Settings. Okay? And I'm going to sync all of these settings except the crop because they all have a different crop. So I'm just going to leave the crop alone and apply all of the different settings by clicking Synchronize. And you'll see now it's going to go and it's applied all of those. Okay, so let's take this second image. Okay, we're going to open that up in Photoshop. Edit a copy with Lightroom adjustments. Okay, so now we have a very similar kind of thing with all of these little specks. So what I'm going to show you now is how to speed up that process of adding the dust and speckles filter to all of your images. So you can do this the very first time. I wanted to show you how it's done first. Now I'm going to show you how to speed that up, and you do that by creating a Photoshop action. I have actions set up over here in my toolbar. If you don't have this in your toolbar, then make sure you go Window and pick Actions. So you can see the Actions dialog box, and there are some default actions. I have a bunch of other ones here. To make a new action, what you want to do is click this little box here with the plus icon. Okay, and I'm going to name it, and I'm going to call this one Dust. Okay, and I'm going to put it in Anne's Actions. If you don't have a set, you can create a new set or just put it in default actions or wherever you want it to be. Okay, and then I am going to click Record. Now at this point it's going to record everything I do. So that will save me some steps in the future. Okay, so I'm going to run through those steps I already showed you. I'm going to go Command J, and I'm going to use the filter, and I am going to go Noise, Dust and Scratches, and I'll pick 3. Click OK. Change the name of this layer to Dust 3. Okay, and then I'm going to make another one. Command J, Filter, Noise, Dust and Scratches. I'm going to pick radius of 8, click OK, rename this layer dust 8. Okay, now I'm going to turn this one off and pick dust 3, and I'm going to add a white layer mask. Actually, I didn't have to turn that off, but I'll turn back on again. I'm going to click dust 8 and I'm going to create a black layer mask. Okay, and so at this point I'm going to stop the recording. Okay, now every time you do this, of course, all the little pieces of dust are going to be in a different place. So that's the only real part of it that you can automate, is the making of these layers and the layer masks and the naming of the layers. You're still going to have to go in and paint on the layer mask where you do or you do not want these specks to be. Okay, so let me turn off dust 8 and I'm going to click the layer mask that is on dust 3, and with my black brush I will go and remove that effect of dust 3 on the jelly itself. Okay, so I'll turn this one off and on, and it's gotten rid of all of those little tiny specks. And now with this one I'll do the same thing. I'm going to click on the layer mask on dust 8, and in this case I am going to use my white brush and I'm going to paint everywhere where I do want this effect to show, and I can get rid of all of these little dots. Okay, so there I am. I've removed all of these little dots. You can see my layer mask is all full of dots now, and so let me just click save. Okay, so to improve your workflow, there were 3 things that we did. In Lightroom, you process one of your photos and then highlight, click all of them, and sync settings. Then when you open it up in Photoshop, let me take one I haven't touched yet. I'll go to this one, Photo, Edit in Photoshop. And now I can go into my Actions panel. I'm going to pick the dust action that I just created, and I'm going to pick Play. And see how it just created those layers for me, renamed them, and add the layer mask all in one step now that I've recorded that action. Okay, so then I would normally go in and make all of my changes to the layer mask. I'm going to jump back over here to this image because I've already done that step on this image. And now I'm going to merge these layers onto a new layer by going Command Option Shift E. And I'm going to open this in Luminar, where I have already created the preset. So now I can go here, pick my presets, and I can just pick the one called Jelly. And that's it. That's done. I click Apply. And that's it. We're done. So that really speeds things up. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.